We live in a world that celebrates generosity. We make movies about it. We admire the people who we've seen live this out. But if we're honest, generosity sounds beautiful until it actually starts to cost us something. That's when things get a little bit complicated, and it's sometimes not just about having enough, but putting trust in our generosity. Like when you pull up to the intersection of Mopac and Bee Caves, and someone comes to your car window asking for money. Maybe you felt this hesitation of, what if they don't use it well? Or what if I'm enabling bad habits? What if I'm enabling something harmful to them? I know I've wrestled with these very questions. And that tension is real. We want to help, but we're not always sure the best way to do it. I noticed this in our midweek Bible study with a group of adults. This is kind of the tension we were wrestling with. It consumed a lot of our time and our energy, wrestling with the question of how do we give generously without feeling foolish? Because we live in a culture that constantly tells us we need more to be happy. More possessions, more money, more security. And in that environment, generosity can feel risky. Many people, even Christians, give very little. Studies show that about 20% of Christians give nothing back to their church, to their communities, to charity organizations. And of the ones who do give, they only give about 1% to 2% of their income. So it's no wonder this question comes up again and again. How do we live generously in a world that tempts us to hold on tightly? And that's where Paul's words come in this letter to Timothy. He says, we brought nothing into the world and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with these. And then later in the letter he says, as for those who in the present age are rich, command them to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share. In writing this letter, Paul is not trying to shame anyone. Instead, he's giving Timothy and us this vision of what generosity could be like and should be like. Several questions bubbled up for me this week about generosity as I was thinking about what we might talk about. The first being, why are people generous? Where does that come from? I think the first reason that people are generous is because they recognize abundance. Bill and Melinda Gates have given away billions and billions of dollars from their foundation. And what's striking about this level of generosity isn't the amount they give, but the mindset of it. Bill has said that growing up, he realized he had opportunities and resources far beyond what most people could imagine. And with that recognition came a certain level of responsibility. So generosity begins when we first acknowledge what we've been given, the gifts, the privileges, and the opportunities. But I'm also curious, where do we learn to be generous people? I think it's the people who raised us. Maybe it's witnessing our parents be faithful givers and tithers to their communities, or our grandparents who seem to always have space open and available at their table, or a mentor who gave an abundance of time and encouragement when they didn't have to. So I wonder who taught you to be generous? Who taught you about generosity? Who shaped your understanding about this life of giving, that this life is about giving and not just keeping? Paul calls the wealthy to lead the way, and we see this in the early church in Acts. It talks about this first church, this community in Acts, that no one was in need, that they built this culture of generosity where the community showed up for one another, that no one was in want, and that they were there to support each other. The final question I had about the spirit of generosity is, what does it do within us? Paul says when we are generous, we store up treasures for the future so that we may take hold of the life that is life. Several years ago, there was this research done in Zurich. They did this experiment where they gave this community of people a lot of money. And then they split that group of people in half, and they said, this half, you can do whatever you want with this money. You can spend it on yourself and do whatever you want with it. And then this half, they said, you are to give it away to give it to friends, to give it to family, to give it to whoever you want. And when the results came back and they were testing the results of people's happiness in doing so, they noticed that those who spent the money on themselves saw this tad boost of happiness, while those who gave it away experienced exuberant joy and gratitude and satisfaction, and even a stronger sense of purpose. In other words, generosity made them happier than self-indulgence. And this study shows what Paul already knew about generosity, that it can be life-giving. When we share our resources, our time, our love, we don't just bless others, we bless ourselves with the life God has meant for us, the life that really is life. So again, I ask you, who taught you about generosity? How has it shaped and formed who you are today and the ways in which you live and give? And what steps of generosity might God be calling you into this week? Maybe it is a generosity with financial gifts to give more boldly around the world. Maybe it's to be more generous with your time, to slow down in a world that somehow keeps going faster and faster, and to be more present with the people around you. Or maybe it's in those everyday moments, like how we respond to someone asking for help with care and wisdom, even when it feels risky. Because generosity isn't about giving blindly. It means opening up our hands and our hearts and trusting God with the outcomes. The world keeps discovering what Paul knew all those centuries ago, that giving is life-giving. Bill Gates recognized it. Researchers in Zurich proved it. And I have the opportunity of seeing you live it out each and every day. Because generosity changes us. It shapes community and points the life God intended for us. Generosity loosens our grip on fears. It opens our hands to others, and it shapes us into the people God has called us to be. It transforms our relationships, our church, and even the world around us. So may God give us the courage to keep living this way, to keep trusting, to keep sharing, and to keep stepping into the life that really is life. Amen.